We provide prevention, intervention, and aftercare support for victims and survivors of human trafficking that are 18 and older. And what we have found in this human trafficking space is that there's no research or there's no data that really shows the need and how organizations like ours, is addressing the issues, and then what barriers are there for those who, have been trafficked and what they need. You find it in sexual assault, you find it in domestic violence, homelessness, but in terms of human trafficking, there is nothing like that.
Service providers face numerous challenges when trying to collect data on outcomes for human trafficking survivors. One of the key challenges we noted was the absence of a validated tool designed to document outcomes for human trafficking survivors. To help address this gap, RTI developed, tested, and validated the Outcomes for Human Trafficking Survivors Instrument, or OHTS, to support comprehensive service programs for survivors of human trafficking.
I first found out about the OHTS instrument actually through a personal friend of mine who is a counselor serving survivors of sex trafficking. And so he shared it with me as an example of a brand new outcomes measurement tool for this population. As a survivor myself, I know that when outcome data is being collected, then somebody has a really good pulse on what's happening. Without collecting outcome data, we don't have any sense of whether or not what we're doing is effective, or who it might be most effective for, or where some of the gaps are that we might need to fill. Collecting outcomes allows us to see both the positives and the negatives, where our clients are progressing, or maybe places where they might need additional support.
Red Oak Hope is an organization dedicated to freedom, hope, and restoration for survivors of sexual exploitation. And we use this tool specifically on our Austin program, which provides transitional housing to female adult survivors, as well as community-based services. When I came across the OHTS, I was really excited, one, that it was free, so that made it very accessible to our tiny staff and small budget, and two, that it was really practical and easy to use. It was something that we could use with existing software. And then really the thing that sold me on it the most was the fact that all of the categories that it was measuring progress in really perfectly aligned with the domains and categories that we were already talking with clients about in our program. I've particularly really keyed in on the 4 areas that the tool says it was created to measure, which is safety, well-being, social connectedness, and self-sufficiency.
One of the things that I really love about the tool is how simple and easy it is to use. And the information that you gain from filling this tool out will be so valuable in being able to track what is happening with an individual survivor, and then being able to look at that information in aggregate to see what is happening across your program or across all of the different programs that you have.
As Sarah just stated, the OHTS has built-in data visualization capabilities, allowing you to look at a client's outcome data at a single point in time. In addition, you can look at a client's outcome data over time to see their overall progress. And finally, there is a data visualization option that provides a program-level summary reflecting average summary ratings across clients by outcome category.
Qualified is a nonprofit organization that serves survivors of trafficking and those at risk, which include domestic violence, women who've been through incarceration, and homelessness. We serve them through occupational therapy services, holistic career development services, and wellness support. I use the OHTS tool as one of our core evaluation tools for survivors of trafficking that come through our Adult Comprehensive Career Development Academy, as well as for our Youth Occupational Therapy Club programs. We assess the baseline and target status of each survivor that we serve, including survivors of sex and labor trafficking, as well as domestic and foreign national survivors. It is nice to have a tool that visually charts their progress and journey in 14 categories. Because we are a holistic and person-centered practice, we focus our efforts on the goals that are most important to our participants, and that's why the Client Priority Goals feature is a wonderful component of the tool. It has been a game changer to be able to include powerful data that demonstrate concrete impact into our grant proposals.
Oftentimes, a donor will say, so, if I gave you, $99 million, what do you plan to do with it, right? We say, okay, we're going to do all this great work. And then how are you going to measure your success? And, donors they really want to know that when they invested these dollars into your programs, that you can intelligently, through graphs, charts, or whatever, communicate back to them. And so that was a barrier for our organization. And so utilizing like an OHTS tool, what happens is that we now can say without a shadow of a doubt, this is what we did. We served this amount of people. 56% of them had housing, 50% of them had medical. And so when they say, well, how are you capturing this data? We say, we utilize this tool that allows us to be able to measure our outcomes. It also says, we're able to identify barriers that many of the survivors and victims face, such as employment, such as education. One thing we have found is that literacy is a major issue, especially with this population, because many of them were lured into trafficking when they were children. And so they weren't allowed to finish school. So when they come out, they're not, they don't have the literacy that is necessary when it comes to filling out job applications and things like that. So we've identified different barriers that they will face.
You can download the Outcomes for Human Trafficking Survivors instrument on RTI's website. There you will also find an ancillary OHTS user guide that outlines implementation best practices and an OHTS development brief that explains the instrument development and testing process. All of these resources are free. The OHTS research team is excited to share these resources to help case managers and service providers track outcomes. It is our hope that this tool will greatly assist organizations as they continue their efforts to provide supportive services to human trafficking survivors.